Hey, good morning or good afternoon, evening, wherever you are. I'm Anne-Marie Concepcion from Creative Pro Week, co-host of Creative Pro Week, and I'm here along with my longtime friend and fellow InDesign geek, Keith Gilbert. Hi, Keith.
Hi, Anne-Marie. Hi,
Hey.
everybody.
Hi. So I'm broadcasting from Chicago, my office in Chicago. And Keith, where are you right now?
I am in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Minneapolis, St. Paul. That's cool. That's great. Now, Keith, you and I met many years ago at an Adobe Creative Suite thing, and I was very impressed by how much you knew about basically everything. And now, even when I'm working with clients, like I was at a client 2 weeks ago, teaching them InDesign InCopy, and they said, I mentioned that InCopy can run scripts that InDesign can, and they said, can it run the one that Keith Gilbert wrote for us? I'm like, oh, you work with Keith? Yeah, he's a longtime friend, and he's working on this cool, complicated script for us. And I'm like, I'm sure it can. Just give him a call. So Keith, before we get into some of the questions for the Ask the Expert, why don't you give us a little background about yourself?
All righty. Well, I'm a consultant based here in the Twin Cities, and I do a mix of consulting, training, writing, speaking, kind of a variety of stuff that keeps life interesting for me, and all revolves around InDesign in some capacity for the most part.
Yes.
Although
Okay.
I've been dabbling in Dimension and Adobe XD quite a bit lately also. Kind of branching
Oh,
out a bit. So
that's excellent. And you also know some video too, right? I think one of your most popular sessions at Creative Pro Week was about using something like the video guide for people who don't do video or something like
oh
that.
yeah, a session about doing video in Photoshop actually for people that don't
Right.
know about video. Yeah, that was fun.
I remember watching that and people were gasping in the audience. They're like, oh, I had no idea Photoshop could do that. Yeah, so you're kind of a all-around expert. And what kind of consulting do you do?
Well, it's a lot of automation stuff. So a lot
Hmm.
of writing InDesign
Robots, things
script.
like that,
Yes,
moving things down the
yeah,
factory line.
exactly. Very very futuristic. And a lot of scripting, XML database publishing stuff from
Ah,
InDesign.
okay.
Uh, what else am I doing? A lot of video recording for
Uh-huh.
various tutorial
Okay.
sites.
Yeah, you're the
Um,
author of one of my favorite courses on lynda.com, which is all about Dropbox. And I can't tell you how often I jump into that course just to see, how does this work again?
yeah,
Yeah,
you wouldn't think a course on that would be necessary, but there's enough in there that's could be mystifying.
absolutely. And, in our field, too, so many of us are working remotely and we're sharing files and everything with each other via Dropbox. So it almost seems like it's part and parcel of Adobe Creative Cloud.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. So Keith you've been a speaker at our events for many years, and you are on the roster for speaking at Creative Pro Week 2019 as well. And I know that we're all looking forward to seeing you. You're one of the highest rated speakers, by the way, from the attendee surveys. And though we haven't decided yet on what sessions you'll be doing, you and I and David still need to talk that out. I thought that you could answer some general questions that we've gotten from our Ask the Experts audience that you can just take them right here. And though it may not have anything to do with whatever session you're doing, I mean, who cares? Seriously, this is just Ask the Experts. So knowing that you are one of the InDesign gurus at the highest pinnacle, I think that we would all want to know, what InDesign keyboard shortcut do you use the most every
Uh,
day? Now, you
that's
can't say Command or Control Z. All right, not that one. But
okay.
what
Well,
else?
how about save, Command or Control S? Because I do that once in a while.
I
No, I
suppose, yeah.
definitely hands down the shortcut I use all the time is I have to look at my keyboard because I'm
Right, right. It's
Option.
muscle memory.
That's right. Option Shift W. And I challenge
My
anybody to know what
goodness.
that does because you probably don't have it
I
set up because it's one I've created. Okay. So I have set up
oh,
I've set up Option Shift W on my computer to toggle in and out of preview mode because I do that dozens and dozens of times every day. And
instead
I
of
don't,
W.
yeah. So, normally you would just hit W to toggle in and out of preview mode, but I hate the way that
Right.
types a W on your text if you happen to have an insertion point. So I've used the keyboard shortcut editor in InDesign to make it Option Shift the W.
That's pretty good.
The combination isn't special. You could change it to whatever you want, but to be able to have a reliable shortcut for that is huge for me.
That's a good one. I kind of thought that you're going to say something automation-y. Like, I don't know, open up the XML tags panel.
Yeah, well, I have used that one, actually. It's like Option 1 or something, if I remember right.
I like Command Return. I use that I use that a lot. Yep. Or Control Enter on Windows, and that is for what? What does that do? That's the quiz.
Yeah, quiz question. Yeah, Quick Apply, and Quick Apply to apply styles, or I use it for launching scripts. So I'll have a dozen different scripts that I'm switching between, and be able to use Quick Apply to pick between those.
You just enter the name of the script, or do you have to say script beforehand, or
nope? Just as long as the name has something unique in it, just like everything else, you can access it directly.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't use scripts that often, but once in a while. But that's a great idea, because I have like about 100 different scripts in my scripts folder that I've collected over the years, and I've put them into subfolders. But that would be a faster way.
Yeah, that's what I've done too. And if you like everything else with Quick Apply, if you have a lot of them, it gets a little sluggish, sometimes as it tries to find the right one.
That's true. That's true. I like using Quick Apply there's some preferences that you can access with Quick Apply, like to toggle autocorrect on and off. You can use Quick Apply for, or show and hide frame edges too. Right. Kind of interesting. All right. I know that InDesign keeps coming out with new features. We just had a semi-massive new update, CC 2019, that came out last month. I assume that you're keeping up to date with all these, of course. But tell me.
Yeah, I'm up to version CS3 now, I think.
Whoa, that's cool. I think that's when they added layers. The layers. That's when they added capital letters in CS3, I think. Yeah, before that, it was all lowercase. Can you tell me what new feature in InDesign that they've added recently has changed the way that you work the most? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I'd have to say definitely just the whole CC libraries thing, which isn't brand new.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of CC libraries. In fact, I counted this morning to see how many I have, and I have 42 CC libraries at the moment. So that shows that I'm using them heavily.
Yeah, and I love CC libraries too. Yeah. So you use it for client projects. Do you collaborate with your clients, or is it mainly yourself moving from app to app that you're using the library?
Mostly just myself to keep myself organized, and as I work between apps. I collaborate some with 3 or 4 clients that way, and that works well. What I really like, though, in that is the ability to store text from InDesign and Illustrator, and only those 2 apps can store text in a CC library.
Right.
And that's been a game changer for me the last couple months.
How do you mean? Can you give me an example of how it's changed your game?
Yeah, so just things large and small. So frequently, being able to store my office address, phone number, email address in a string like you'd have at the bottom of a stationery or something. You're always having to include that on various things you're creating, and now I can have that as text only in a library, and with a couple clicks insert that wherever my insertion point is. Yeah. Is huge.
No, that's true. So you just click and then you open up the library and find that boilerplate text. Now, do you bring it over so that it's linked, so that if you ever update it from the library, that it updates all the places where you've dragged it over? Or do you mainly, I think it's Option or Alt drag to bring over an unlinked copy?
I primarily do the right click. When you right click on it, you've got the option for either inline or place copy, I think. And the beauty of that is it just puts it right where your insertion point is. And I don't do the linked workflow really very often. I don't have need for it.
Yeah.
And so I just like the simplicity of it.
That's true. I'm a big fan of CC libraries too. And I think right after Adobe Max, they added the ability to attach a note to all the library items and also to create subfolders and organize them.
Yeah. In fact, those subfolders, I think if I ever get around to it, I'll be able to probably not have 42 different libraries because some of them are kind of an organizational thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, have separate libraries when I should just have separate folders for.
That's true. That's true. There's some room for improvement in libraries, though. I'm sure that you would agree. Like one that caught me yesterday was I needed to search through a library to find a particular item. And when you click in the search field at the top of the CC Libraries panel, it searches stock by default, I believe. And you have to know that you can click on the downward arrow and say search current library or search all libraries. And that's obnoxious.
Yeah. And even when you know that, it's just easy to miss. It's so small and you're
Absolutely.
in a hurry.
Yeah. And let me share the tip that I told you about since we're talking about CC Libraries. Yeah. What I just learned this morning was that if you have Bridge CC 2019, which is free to anybody who's got a CC subscription, they added the ability to view your libraries in Bridge and to create new libraries and drag things en masse. That was your tip, I think, that you wrote for InDesign Secrets a while back, how to quickly bring over a whole pile of graphics into a CC library from the Finder or Explorer. You can still do that, but now you can use Bridge, which makes it so much easier because you can use all the Bridge features like filter and find and such. But what the tip is that you just open up the library and select any image in there, and it opens up large in the preview panel in Bridge. Now, I made a special workspace in Bridge just for previewing my library items because those things are tiny in the panel, and I found that really useful. That's all.
That's awesome.
Good old Bridge. Love Bridge.
Especially if you haven't named your library assets, which most of us don't do as meticulously as we should. It's nice to be able to tell what they are by looking at a big preview like that. Absolutely.
Yes. The libraries are a very cool feature. I don't think that enough people use them like you and I do. I think that people are nervous about where are these things being stored exactly. In the old-fashioned library that we still have, the files are snippets that are stored on your hard drive someplace, but where are they in a library? They're stored in the cloud someplace, and when you drag them over, they get the little cloud icon, and that's a little nerve-wracking.
Right.
I was just helping somebody on the forums who said that he used Adobe Capture on mobile device to create what they call a shape. So you take a picture of something, and then you say make it a shape, and it turns into a vector object. You add it to a library, and then you could bring it into Illustrator. But you could also drag and drop it into InDesign. And he was saying that he was getting a disconnect between the two. He updated one, the other one said it was missing. That's a whole pile of worms there. Have you run into that?
I have not, but I can see where that could be confusing at best.
That's because Shape saves them as an SVG file. Right. And so, Adobe is not up to date with SVG by any means in any of the apps. When you drag it into Illustrator, converts it into an AI object. When you drag it into InDesign, converts it to a PDF. And though it has a little cloud icon, it's no longer linked to the SVG, so it's crazy making.
Yep.
Anyway, don't get me started on CC Libraries. It's your fault for bringing that up because now I'm going to just monopolize the entire conversation. All right, so I want to talk about scripting. As we've mentioned, we both use tons of scripts, and scripts is one of the favorite things for any pro InDesign user. If you go to InDesignSecrets.com, and you'll find tons of scripts that we talk about. Also in our lynda.com/LinkedIn Learning videos, we talk about using scripts. However, I have not yet advanced to the point where I'm a scripter. And so I know that what you see in InDesign is just the tip of the iceberg, and then there's a ton of capabilities that the developer said, we're just going to leave this up for the scripters to put together. So how did you learn scripting? And like my client, you wrote them a script. I'm just amazed. And if I wanted to hire you to write a script or to hire one of your ilk, is it expensive to do that? I mean, did this client pay you like $20,000 to write the script? You can tell us. Nobody else is listening.
Okay, so that's a lot of questions.
Okay.
So, how I learned it, I'm in kind of a unique place because back years ago I was a computer science major, so I have learned some, programming techniques and all that garbage, way back when. So I'm kind of a unique left brain, right brain kind of. I've got a little bit of right brain, a little bit of left brain, and that's kind of, the more you are a little bit of both, the more likely you're able to get your head around scripting, because, but it's far more important to know InDesign really well than to be a computer programmer. You go find Joe IT guy and ask him to write you a script for InDesign, they won't have a clue because they don't understand how an InDesign page is constructed and, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So everybody listening to this is an InDesign user, and so you've got that. Now you just have to add a little bit of the logical thinking kind of stuff that requires, that programming requires to be able to mix some of that in, right?
Is there any kind of book or documentation that a person could learn on their own?
Well, it's funny you should ask, because I've got a.
Did you just write a book about it?
I've got a series on lynda.com, LinkedIn Learning.
I didn't know that.
Called InDesign. What is it called? I have to look it up. InDesign Scripting Made Easy. Okay.
Oh, cool.
And so
I had no idea. That's neat.
It's really, really basic lessons, assuming you know nothing about anything about programming, and starts at nothing and tries to take you through writing basic scripts, and it's oriented squarely at designers, not computer programmers. Okay. So that's one place to start. Beyond that, there isn't, other than a ton of online resources, there isn't much out there. Peter Carroll has an excellent book, if you can find it, a short little guide that's a great reference. But beyond that, it's a lot of just, digging around the web, and the scripting forum on InDesign Secrets is awesome.
Good.
As well as InDesign's, Adobe's scripting
Adobe forums. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
I've gone there before, and I find that people, especially on the Adobe forums, the scripting and InDesign scripting forum on Adobe's website, that if I write something like, how would I do, and then I'll explain it, that sometimes people will just write a script right there, say, try this, and it's just amazing. And then, of course, if you wanted to tweak it more, then you can contact them offline and pay them, which brings me to that other question. Yeah. Is it expensive to hire somebody to write you or your company a custom script for InDesign?
As you can imagine, it depends. But what it depends on, this is really important for everybody to understand. Almost every scripting project I've done, the writing part of it, the number of hours I spend actually writing the script, is usually minimal compared to the huge part. The huge amount of work is trying to extract from your head what it is that you want, right?
Yes.
So I actually did a bunch of scripts for Target a few months ago, and it was such an exception to the rule. It was just amazing, because they came to me with a PDF like 25 pages long, where they spec'd out exactly what they wanted. They said, this is what we want this script to do. Bing, 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 bing.
In InDesign?
Yes.
Was it for doing their catalog or something like that?
It was, it was for automating circulars and things like that. And
it
was a series of scripts, but it was nice, because they had before and after files. They said, here's what the file should look like before you run the script. This is what it should look like after you run the script. These are the steps we want to automate. And it was so incredibly buttoned down that I was able to do it far cheaper than if I had to have many, many meetings with them trying to say, well,
just
what
make it do magic. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's usually almost everybody that asks me for a script, people that find me on the internet, it's usually, how much would a script be to do this? And it's like, well, okay, what's this? What do you mean? And what would happen, but what happens if there's process colors in the document? Or what if there's this, and people don't think of all the things that could go wrong, right?
Right, you have to plan for.
Yeah. Yes. So that's what makes a script expensive, if I have to spend a lot of time with you asking a zillion questions, because I have to charge for that.
All right. That's useful to know. Very useful. My own personal experience is that I've just hired scripters to write, I guess, relatively small things, automation things that, well, for a scripter, it's small, but for the client, it's huge. It saves hours a day. And scripters have charged usually between, I don't know, $200 and $1,000, something like that for the script, which I thought was ridiculously inexpensive.
Yeah, and that sounds about right. I mean, anything other than something really kind of trivial, that's just can you automate this one little thing?
Yeah.
That could be $200-$500.
Right.
But anything where there's bigger stuff needing to happen and more considerations, then probably you're talking at starting about 1,000 and going up from there.
Yeah. Okay. And definitely worth it for sure. Now, the last thing I want to talk about with you is doing digital interactive publications, because you're kind of been our go-to presenter for converting an InDesign document into an app or a digital publication or publish online or digital or interactive PDF. It's interactive PDF that I hear about all the time. Somebody on the InDesign Secrets Facebook group just the other day said, I need to convert this 200-page document into an interactive PDF. And what's the best way to do that? And people are like, forget it. PDF doesn't support interactivity. Well, it turns out after a bunch of comments, he was just talking about click on the TOC on the table of contents and jump to there, and also web links. Basically, that was it. That's what he's talking about, interactive. And so people are just saying just use the built-in TOC feature in InDesign, and that will do that for you automatically. But what do you tell people if they say that they want to publish an interactive document and that they want to distribute it and allow people on any device to read it anywhere? What kind of advice do you give to those people?
I tell them good luck. No, so that the
good luck, buddy.
The reason that makes me laugh is because that I want to distribute a document on any device anywhere, and I want to easily distribute it.
Right.
That unfortunately, even in 2018, doesn't really exist yet. There still are, unfortunately, compromises that we have to make.
Right.
What we all want is something like an interactive PDF, something you can just send to somebody and they can be virtually guaranteed they can open it and that it'll all work.
Right.
Unfortunately, PDF isn't that anymore for most people. So then you have to think about, okay, well, what's the next best thing I can do? And what I've been having a lot of fun with lately is the In5 plugin for InDesign from Ajar Productions, and that does a wonderful job of outputting an HTML package from InDesign with all kinds of rich interactivity. And then once you have that HTML package, you can either put it on a website, you could use PhoneGap to bake it into an app for Android or iOS. There's a number of things you can do with that. So that's been kind of fun. That's probably
that would be the answer then.
That's the answer for a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah. So in other words, you just don't even consider PDF. You're going to have to use HTML for the widest distribution. Yeah,
if you want to have rich interactivity, and
something beyond the TOC links.
Right.
So you're talking about like video, audio, quizzes, things like that?
Yes. I mean, particularly video. Video just will not work in a PDF, hands down. You can't just reliably distribute a PDF that has video in it and ensure that people are going to be able to view the video.
Right.
So that's a non-starter for a lot of people right there.
That's just very disappointing. That's for sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, and then can In5 export to formats other than HTML? I mean, for example, can it create fixed layout EPUB?
No, not really. I mean, if you want a fixed layout EPUB, you'd still be better off, using InDesign tools for that.
Okay.
So
curious.
What is missing with In5 is, because it outputs to HTML, today we don't have any kind of an HTML package that, I could send to you via email and you could open, right?
Right.
I'm going to have to send you a link to that HTML that's posted on a server.
Right, so it's not self-contained,
Exactly.
Which is, I think, one of the requirements for the EPUB standard, for an ebook.
Yep.
But I think that might be coming down the pike. I mean, I've heard talk about PDF Next or EPUB book or, just some other formats for HTML book or HTML to be in a self-contained package. So people are working on that. That would be cool to see.
Yeah.
What do you think about Publish Online?
I love Publish Online as long as, as long as you can live with some of the limitations it has, and the primary limitation is that you can't password protect it and things like that.
Yeah.
As long as you're okay with it being open, it works great.
Okay, good. Yeah, I would also like to be able to search through it too. I mean, and to select text. That would be nice.
Yep.
All right. Well, it's been great talking with you, Keith, and sort of like sharing InDesign geeky kind of stuff. And hopefully our audience has also learned a few things, picked up a few tips. If you have any questions about what we've talked about, you can go ahead and email asktheexpert@creativepro.com. And if you want to see more of Keith, you can either move to Minnesota and join the Twin Cities InDesign user group, or come to Creative Pro Week in Seattle, which is going to be in 2019, June 10th through 14th, and we'll probably have Keith speaking every single day in the various conferences.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. All right. Thanks so much for spending time with me today, Keith, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. See ya.